Now you could ask, well, then okay, fine. How did that works for food maybe and that, but what about, me trying to achieve my spiritual path? Well, again, like I was saying, the body isn't egoic, so it doesn't have that critical mind. It doesn't care about judgment. It just wants to thrive and live. And so if you're like, I want to achieve this, I want to do this talk and I'm excited about it, but I'm so scared and I get these feelings in my body. Well, the soul, if you will, is going to say, yes, I want that too. So let's do this together. And so it's going to work with me to work with this goal that we have to reduce the stress somatically, because a lot of emotions, let's say, and memories is held at the cellular level, and that can be then released so that when someone presents and does a public talk, for example, they will still have to take the action and do it, but they're not going to be burdened with the feelings that they have in their body that is holding them back 100-fold. Now it'll be, ooh, I feel a little bit nervous, but it's a good nervous feeling that I'm going to now be conscious and be very aware, and I can really be present enough.
G'day, Dr. Tony here for another great episode of Realms of Power. And today I'm joined by Jennifer, who's a kinesiologist in the Northern Rivers of New South Wales. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Aw, thanks, Tony. So it's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, amazing. We were just chatting off air about some of the amazing stuff you do and help people turn their power on in the realms you work with. And I'd love to dive into that in a moment. But also, just our listeners often like to sort of know where you've come from. Like, what's your backstory? So, how did you end up here in the Northern Rivers? And yeah, give listeners a sense of where you've come from.
All right. Well, my name is Jennifer Genest, and yes, I'm a registered kinesiologist here now in the Northern Rivers, and I'm originally from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And my background is I've worked at an educational institution. I danced professionally, so I had quite an interest in creativity and using movement as a healing modality, even through my own traumas and things that I've needed to move through. Dance was one of the biggest things for me. So then when I felt I needed to shift to a different career, I decided to find yoga, which was a parallel pathway to dance. I felt that it was very a parallel career where it would be sustainable, perhaps, but I also enjoyed the idea of the spiritual aspect of it as well. So that was sort of my shift and change. So again, I sold my house, quit my job, left Canada to start fresh in Australia, and I found myself in Northern Rivers, studied kinesiology with Perjette Weismer in Byron Bay. And I work with kinesiology, so this is the method of muscle testing. And I specifically work with the psyche, so the psychology, so the psychosomatic work. So it's body work, but really considering the psychology, coping mechanisms, the subconscious, unconscious, these sorts of things to help people change the way they think to change their lives. And so, in my experience, applying these these methods, but also my own journey of finding creativity and how that can also come to healing and transformation, I'm merging those together. And so that's a little bit about me in a nutshell, Tony, and how I'm here and love this region. It's magical. And I now have citizenship, so I'm very grateful to be here and to call this my
Yeah.
home.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And you mentioned a few things there. You talked about your journey and transformation and changing lives. And if we put the spotlight back on you, you certainly have had a journey. You've changed your life and had a huge transformation. So when you're supporting the clients coming to you, you've had that lived experience where you've literally gone to the other side of the whole realm we're on, different weather. I imagine Canada's not as warm as here at times. And but now you feel like you've found a home. And how important was that journey and transformation for you in your healing journey?
Oh, wow. I love this question. Well, when we work with nervous system harmony and coherence, in the end, it comes down to safety, doesn't it? So I think the safety also is rooted in home and feeling safe and supported and connected in family. And I guess I've always been like the black sheep of the family, it felt like in my home, my biological family, which I love them dearly, just very different, different values and beliefs. But now I find myself feeling at home and settled, and it's almost as if we need to go on these journeys to find ourselves. And yes, it's true, isn't it? It's this embodiment. Once we have had that experience and we step out, so I'm Aries North Node. Yeah, so which is one to be the pioneer, one to step out into the unknown in those places of that are fear. But when you're kind of pushed to do it because you have no other way but to listen and tune into your heart, because I mean, you do always have a choice, but my choice is what I needed to do. And it was this yearning. So I listened to that. And that embodiment does come from that lived experience. So when I'm working with clients and they're feeling that they need to make these big shifts, it's really beneficial to have a guide or a practitioner that has that reference point to what it was like, because even being in close proximity, my cells that have that memory are going to start to harmonize with the client's cells. So yes, there's the beautiful methods and techniques that we can use, but just being is also can be enough. The presence, the experience. So there's value in that. And that home sense, well, is I think what we're all trying to achieve is coming back home to ourselves. So I hope that answers the question, Tony.
Yeah, I like it's lovely. And the word that stood out for me there was when you said tuning into your heart and realms of power, our heart, whether it's our middle chakra, whether it's just our life force, whatever people want to describe our heart, when we're tuned into it, sort of in more coherence, when we're not listening to our heart, our intuition, then we can often make mistakes. And whether it's like a journey across the world, finding the safety of your home, and I had an example yesterday. My daughter's boyfriend, he was four-wheel driving out the back of the Sunshine Coast here and sort of had to make a decision whether to take his car through a creek. And he went through the creek. It didn't go so well for the car. And I asked him afterwards, did he have a feeling before going through the creek? And he did, but then he didn't listen to it. And how many times have you met clients that have not listened to their heart or their intuition? And some of your kinesiology is about testing and creating that increased tapping in or tuning into your heart. How often have you seen that happen for people?
Oh, amazing. So there's, yeah, so many layers to this. You're right. With the kinesiology and the muscle testing, essentially, I believe that I'm tuning into someone's soul, their spirit, their body, which holds that wisdom that has that innate knowing. And so when I do a session with them, they might start to pick up on, that's what that intuition feels like. So I just wanted to make that connection. And because we all have that intuition, we all do. And and when it comes down to it, is that we need to get out of the mind and into the body. This is why I love the dance, because when you're in your body, then you're in the heart and you're feeling, coming from that feeling place of feminine, or the just the safety again, then you might get these like information. You might get it as a sense of just knowing. It might be, they talk about these different clairvoyance, you might hear it, you might just know it, you might see it, you might, all these different things. For me, it's like a thought download and then choo, and it's so quiet and subtle and loving. And then, and it can be so sometimes hard to pick up if you're racing, you're doing. So the idea is to slow down, and in that there's quality of life and consciousness. So I feel that, we can access that intuition a lot better when we're living consciously. And even if it means we're busy with a lot, that's okay. But then just come back and integrate at the end of the day or that morning and say like, oh, what am I grateful for? This and that happened yesterday. Oh, look at that fun synchronicity that happened. Oh, that must have been like the co-creation with the universe. And oh, I must be in flow then, because like I asked for this and it came, and I met this person. I needed something and it just happened and it all worked out. So these beautiful connections that can happen. But then just coming back at the end of the day, even, and just being like, oh, what did I learn today? And what went wrong or what worked? Or, and sometimes when things don't work out, doesn't mean you're not following your intuition. It's like this great lesson that's there. Mm. And when it
Look, I
comes to
love.
clients, yes, I've had these big moments of when I say intuition, they'll go, "Oh, yeah." And it's like, so but I think what it is that you'll find that sweet tune of like, what is Jennifer's tuition? What's Tony's intuition? And it's this like quiet voice that is you. It's very unique to someone.
Mm, yeah, I
And they'll
love.
start yeah, and lastly is I think that one will start to notice that it's like when you hear someone's voice, you're like, "Oh, that's, Rochelle, and I know her." But so when you get those little hits, and even if you fail, it's still a success because the next one that comes in of information, you'll know what it is now, and that's something you can guide yourself on and to trust it.
Well, you certainly lit up about that topic. Our
Yeah,
listeners will
I
be like,
am,
wow,
I
look at that.
suppose.
But in that, it was also the slow down to be able to access that, which is just as important. And I wanted to touch on one thing you said, and we'll come back to the kinesiology because that's really important. But one thing you said there was about when you were referencing the dance and accessing that feminine part and just being in the body. And I would say in Australia, whether it's our culture, a lot of men feel really awkward dancing and they might need alcohol to even go out on the dance floor and just trust that their body can move. Why do you think that is such a blockage from an, Canadian dancer w- coming into our culture? Why would you say that's such a blockage for a lot of Australians?
Oh, wow. That's such a beautiful, powerful question. And it's very pertinent and important. And what I see is, the addictions. One of the things I've noticed throughout my journey of visiting events, going to different pubs and things and places now, I realize I don't sometimes want to associate around people that drink alcohol because that influence, there's other things that come into play. And I love connecting deeply, intimately with the soul, with the person. And sometimes, yes, the alcohol can give that sense of relaxed and ease. But then if it's taken in too much, then one isn't fully grounded, centered in their power, who they are, who we can really connect deeply on a level of intimacy or connection with someone. And so it is really really an unfortunate thing that that's happened here. But to answer your question, why that is, well, there is a lot of people that are disconnected from their bodies, and perhaps, substances like alcohol is creating a continued dissonance and disconnection from the body. And so the more that there's these coping mechanisms, let's say, or then one will get further away from finding that access where they can just be and be present. But also the shame and the stigmas and, oh, dance, is it feminine, is it too, like, and if men are supposed to be tough and strong and ride motorcycles, I don't know, whatever it might be. But perhaps those conditionings through traumas from their childhood or their formative years, what they've observed and witnessed from their parents. And then also the culture as well, there's a lot of athleticism here. And so maybe, it's that's those are some of the things I'm gonna conspire and speculate that it's to do with conditions that are not real. They're just there as illusions, blocking men and women from exploring the negative and masculine aspects of being a human, that has not is unrelated to gender or sex really, but rather those qualities are within us, and it's a matter of integrating both of them.
Mm. Look, that's a beautiful global response to a pretty tough question. But yeah, as a kinesiologist, again, let's dive into that. So for the listeners that don't they might have heard of kinesiology, but not everyone really knows what it is, what it actually does. And you've talked about muscle testing, or people might have heard of the vials and that sort of thing. How about, Jennifer, you give me a summary for the listeners of what kinesiology is, and then we can go into how you've applied it to help turn people's power on and maybe access some of those old childhood wounds and cultural blockages and all those things we are just talking about then.
Excellent. Okay. So, in the most simplest way to define what kinesiology is, and keep in mind that it is the scope of it is different in different countries. So, here in Australia, kinesiology is a means to balance our body systems on every level. So, we're balancing the energy. However, balancing the energy can affect you on the physical level, mental, emotional, even spiritual, energetic, of course, but also even comes down to your biochemistry, which can affect and influence the intake of nutrition and how you absorb food too. Yeah, so there's many, it's very, it can get quite scientific where you can apply things that your body will need on many levels of the physicality, but also, yeah, balancing the body systems is the simplest way to describe it. And another simple way to describe muscle testing is what I'm looking for is, well, we have meridians that run through the body. And so when we are hydrated and our energetic integrity is intact, we will have a circuitry of energy moving through us like we're an electromagnetic field that's radiating. And to describe that is that, even if we meet someone, we don't even know who they are, you pick up on things, don't you? So that picking up on things, let's say you haven't talked to someone, but you just see them first. You reading information, that's the energy. We can't deny that we're energy beings, right? So with this method of muscle testing, if you're hydrated, and mostly that is a good indication of being able to, I'll be able to detect a yes or no, or a stress or unstressed response. So the way we look at it is, like you said, vials, using vials. So it could be, say, a substance, let's say a substance of like bread. Okay. So this bread is in a vial, and maybe one person has had an allergy to baker's yeast, which is in bread. If you put that vial on someone's body, the body's going to say, no, this is not what I need. It's not good for me. So it's unfavorable. And so then when I muscle test, that muscle will go weak. So it's the energy integrity through the meridian lines that I'm testing. So for example, if I'm testing this muscle, this one here, the anterior deltoid, it's on the gallbladder meridian, if I can recall correctly. And so that meridian will fail or weaken through that muscle. And that will give me a yes, no, or stress, unstressed. So that's the method of muscle testing would use. But let's say now, if you had a client came in and they said, "Oh, I'd love to achieve this goal of winning this race," or "I'd love to speak in public and I'm afraid to do this talk." We're human, so on every level, you could come to a kinesiologist with a particular goal, and the idea is we're going to reduce the stress on the body somatically and then raise the life force energy to achieve the goal. And so when I'm working with the client, the body says that, we say, okay, we're going to work with this concept. The body will say, aha, okay, if you want that goal, then we're going to have to drop away this condition, this thing from age 3, this, that, and, to get to that. And so what I do is I have a protocol and a database that I muscle test to find what that person needs in a particular order, sequence to achieve that goal. And it might be in one session, it might be 3, but that's in a nutshell of how it works. And again, I work with the energy psychology. So my areas are the emotional realm and working with, say, your inner child or the traumas that you had as a child and how you want to rectify those things to have better relationships, better connection with yourself and in the world. And that might manifest in, you having a better career or finding your path or even it comes down to spiritual, realms. If you're feeling like you want to live in alignment with your soul's purpose, those are areas that we can delve into as well.
Yeah, great.
So,
So can I ask about the yes no because I think that's so key. And so for we might have a skeptic saying, "Oh, well, how do you know? How do you know that that's a yes or a no? Where's the scientific validation, or how much experience have you had, or that sort of thing on the yes, no. And is it you reading the body field, or is it they sort of their meridians? How do you really find it and determine the accuracy of the yes, no in muscle testing?
I love that question. Yes. So the body it doesn't have, let's say, an ego, right? So the body's intelligence, at a cellular level, a trillion cells, all it wants to do is thrive, right? So if you bring something to that person's presence, either the body's going to be like, ah, no, or it's going to be, yes, I want that. So with the yes, no, we're really looking for, is this going to help you thrive or is this going to help you decline and die? So it's this scale. Now, I usually will use simple basics things like my name is Jennifer, my name is something else, and get that. I'll check neurological organization because sometimes things might be a little bit out of whack. There's also, like I said, hydration because water is a conductor of energy. So the water hydration will help get in. And I love when you mentioned accuracy because for me, I'm very much into accuracy, and that was one of the things that even when I was did my training way back when, I was always very skeptical as well, and looking for those pieces of like, is this, to answer that question as well, let me look at another means. Yes, I will also ask those questions to start, but then also if they will be able to feel it. So when I show them, feel this. So I'm holding the 2 pound pressure. I'm not on that muscle. And I will use, like, let's say we bring something in your close proximity that's not healthy for you and you know it. Look, feel that. Do you feel how it goes weak? And then now let's put this near you, which is a blueberry and it's antioxidants. Your body will be like, whoa, it's so strong. It's holding and it's amazing. The energy integrity will hold. Now, you could ask, well, then, okay, fine. How did that works for food, maybe, and that, but what about, me trying to achieve my spiritual path? Well, again, like I was saying, the body isn't egoic, so it doesn't have that critical mind. It doesn't care about judgment. It just wants to thrive and live. And so, if you're like, I want to achieve this, I want to do this talk, and I'm excited about it, but I'm so scared, and I get these feelings in my body. Well, the soul, if you will, is going to say, yes, I want that too. So let's do this together. And so it's going to work with me to work with this goal that we have to reduce the stress somatically, because a lot of emotions, let's say, and memories is held at the cellular level. And that can be then released. So that way, when someone presents and does a public talk, for example, they will feel, they will still have to take the action and do it, but they're not going to be burdened with the feelings that they have in their body that is holding them back 100-fold. Now it'll be, ooh, I feel a little bit nervous, but it's a good nervous feeling that I'm going to now be conscious and be very aware, and I can really be present enough. So, the accuracy is still, I mean, I don't believe I haven't looked at if there's actual scientific funding or evidence to say that it's accurate and not, but I've had in my experience now to the point where I feel there's no doubt. I have no doubts anymore because I've seen enough that I believe it and see it. And with the results that I get from my clients, they seem to be very happy, and they've said, "Oh my goodness, that's spot on." So I just keep trusting.
Yeah, I love that. Trust is so important. And when we talk about our senses, I think one of the things we've been is censored. So using the word censored with a C, or sense with an S, when we're limited in our senses, we don't actually perceive things like we could or would. And kinesiology is just another little thing of, yeah, that bread going close to you, and your body knows that it's either good or not good. And it's actually something that we've been so censored in, we've been so not connected to our body field, that someone like you as a kinesiologist who's trained in that and tapped in can really help them read their own field. Because at the end of the day, we're really here to heal ourselves. And you're acting as a guide to sort of turn their power on, so they've got more power to be able to access their own innate ability to heal, which is one of my whole realms. The eighth realm is an innate ability to heal itself. And we talked about this on my retreat I just ran before. And I've had, you know, as a chiropractor, is one of my most solid beliefs is the body heals itself. And when it's in alignment, it will do that better. And that alignment could be the alignment of the, yeah, neural toxicity, the misalignment of the spinal vertebra. It could be that bread, or it could be that fear about public speaking, or any of those examples you've used. And when you see results just consistently as a practitioner for many, many years, yeah, there's just, you have that confidence, there's no doubt. And let me tell you, Jennifer, you have the passion that should just light people up. That if they're in your area, or you, I know you do remote stuff as well, just get lit up by Jennifer and get her to help bring your body back into balance in whatever realm that is. So can you give me an example maybe of a case of someone you've recently worked with that just stands out, so people get a sense of, oh wow, this person actually came with that, and that's what sort of shift they got with some of the work you do?
Yeah, wow. Oh my gosh, so many. Which one do I choose? Well, look, to make it simple, I just go with the last recent client that I had, which was online. And she was 63, female. She is stepping into her power and is creating a beautiful non-for-profit organization. In fact, she's already in it, and she's already now building it with women. So it's for women, of women, supporting women. And one of the beautiful things is that she had to go on these journeys of transformation, trauma, the depths of darkness, addictions, of abuse. And I could tell in the end when she started laughing, I knew that things were already shifting, because when it comes to the five elemental theory, which is what we use in the Chinese traditions, and laughing is associated with the color yellow and the spleen and stomach meridian, the earth element. And so there's all, like, we're all of the earth. And so, and before that, we have the grief and and this is related to the lungs and the color gray. And so anyway, so I was looking and monitoring her transition, and there was a lot of things that we had to clear, which were sabotages, things like, I am not safe to be in my body. Imagine that, going through from then to 63, not feeling safe to be in your body. Can you imagine holding that burden all your life? And so perhaps we somehow connected. In fact, I just happened to reach out because I love working with the areas of charities and that sort of thing. And so we connected, and immediately she was like, "Oh, I know that I need your guidance." And that's the thing. I love what you said about because when it comes to clients, we can have clients that we see regularly. Sometimes the codependency can continue, but for me particularly, I want to help guide people to be in their power and then never see me again. No, but you know what I mean? To really help them move into the direction that they're already going. And so she happened to have these, yeah, sabotage programs that were quite deep with that, related to, I don't want to be here even. I do want to be, so conflict reversals, even psychological reversals. I want to be here on this earth, but I don't. From age 14, now, God knows, I didn't go into too many details about what she experienced to not want to be here. But these are the things that are quite intense. And so when it comes to when she was ready, and she's like, in order for me to move forward in this foundation, this charity that she's building, she needed to let go of this. But now it's a win-win, because now she is someone who can take all of her pain and suffering and use that as a gift to help other people. And in the same way, I could have potentially have done the same for her to some extent, or just assisting her and guiding her in the right direction, or just to help her cry and be witnessed and acknowledged and cared for and loved and nurtured, when that wasn't done when she needed it, when she was 14, let's say.
Mhm.
So to me, when I left that session, I was also energized and just like, oh, that feeling of like, oh, I'm just, and she's then after at the end, she was like, thanked me and was laughing. She's like, "Of course, yes, now I get it." And just, yeah, it was such a beautiful experience. And we went through also alcohol addiction. Interestingly enough, you mentioned that as well. And it takes some people have it in them. They have the wisdom, they have the power, but it's just sometimes letting go of bits that are in the body, replacing it with water, for example. We ended up doing some tapping, but the muscle testing was excellent because it really targets where to tap. Because you can tap everywhere, but to really know exactly where and when and be precise with what is needed, and temporal tapping, imprinting new information with the body. For example, instead of worrying and drinking alcohol, I will choose now to drink water and feel my sensitivity and just be with it, instead of avoiding it. So yeah, there's many different things that went through the session, but just give the idea that I really believe now that she'll be able to move through where she is now with much more grace and ease, but also empowered because she can take her journey and help others. And it was an honor to be able to help her with that. And it gave me joy in the sense of work that I do, rather than draining me. That could have been, when I was working in an office all day, way back in Canada.
Mm. You just again lit up by the shifts you're helping support for people, and I I really just admire you for that. And Jennifer, look, we better wrap up this episode pretty soon because I'm trying to keep it to this time frame. How does someone find you? Like, how, can they look you up online, Insta, website? What have you got?
Yes, absolutely. The best way would be my website, which is jennifergenet.com.au, or Canada, jennifergenet.ca. It'll take you to the same website in there to subscribe, really, but also my contacts are there. So that's the simplest way. But
Yeah,
I
we'll add
also
that.
am on the socials as well.
Yeah, we'll add all that in the show notes so people can access that if they want to find you. So to finalize this episode, have you got some short wisdom for our listeners, which is about realms of power, how to turn your power on? If you could summarize some of your greatest learnings in one or two sentences to say, what could our listeners do as a result of listening to you today to help heal themselves and turn their power on?
Yes. Okay. Well, I would say it's two things. One is the moment that you feel uncomfortable, excuse me, I'm just gonna go over here and feel it wherever you are. Just I'm going to the bathroom and just feel it and have a cry, or ooh, what this is triggering me. Oh, but what is this? Okay, what is the beauty? What's the what's the gold in this? And yes, because otherwise it suppresses and builds and then comes up in places that you don't want it to. But the moment that you feeling that uncomfortability, address it immediately. That would be my biggest thing, because we can easily just ignore it. Oh, that's uncomfortable. I don't want to feel that. Let me just go over here or eat this, right? And then lastly would be radiate your light so bright it ripples out onto others. That's what I love to say.
Absolutely beautiful. Oh, well, Jennifer, it's been an absolute privilege and honor having you on the show today, and for our listeners that tune in regularly. And please share this episode because there's so much wisdom in each one of these. There'll be little snippets that you can pick up, whether it's that final wisdom Jennifer just shared, and pass it on to others because these platforms really work when we share for the other listeners that are out there wanting this information. Only to share it to people who someone is willing and open and ready to listen. But we really, really appreciate that. So thanks again, Jennifer, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Tony. It's been wonderful.
Yeah. And to our listeners, have an awesome day. See ya.